Right now, somewhere on Earth, it's a hot, sticky afternoon, not a record breaker, not the kind of day that makes the news. There's shade, there's cold water, and a perfectly healthy person could sit right there doing nothing at all and slowly die of the heat. Because heat doesn't kill you the way you think it does. Your body has exactly one real way to cool itself down: sweat. But here's the part people miss. Sweat sitting on your skin does nothing. It only cools you when it evaporates. When a drop of sweat turns from liquid into vapor and lifts off your skin, it carries a tiny piece of your heat away with it. That's the whole trick. Evaporation is the engine. Everything depends on it. And evaporation needs somewhere to go. The air around you has to be able to soak up more water. On a dry day, it can drink almost endlessly, and your sweat vanishes the moment it appears. But on a humid day, the air is already close to full. Soggy. Saturated. Your sweat has nowhere to evaporate to, so it just sits there, pools, drips off, and does nothing. So the real question was never, how hot is it? It's whether your sweat can still leave. And to measure that, scientists use something almost comically simple: a thermometer wrapped in a wet sock. It's called the wet bulb temperature, and it really is just that. Wrap the bulb of a thermometer in a wet cloth and blow air across it. Water evaporates off the cloth and chills the thermometer down, in exactly the same way sweat chills you. In dry air, loads of water evaporates, and the wet thermometer reads far colder than the real temperature. In soaking wet air, almost nothing evaporates, and it barely drops at all. So the wet bulb temperature tells you the coldest your skin could ever get by sweating. It's the floor, the lowest your body can pull itself down to. And now, watch why that floor is everything. Your skin sits at around 35 degrees Celsius. Call it 95 Fahrenheit. As long as the wet bulb temperature is below that, your sweat can still carry heat away, downhill, to somewhere cooler. But when the wet bulb climbs all the way up to your skin temperature, that downhill vanishes. There's no colder place left for your heat to go, and your core temperature just begins to rise. At that point, nothing you'd normally reach for works. Shade doesn't help. You're already making the heat yourself, on the inside. Water doesn't help. You can't evaporate it. A fan just drags more hot, wet air across you. You've become a closed jar that's still generating heat, with nowhere to put it. That's exactly where the famous number came from. If your skin is 35 degrees, then a wet bulb of 35 is the moment cooling stops. 35 degrees wet bulb. That was the textbook limit past which a human being could not survive. It appeared in the research, in the climate models, in every serious article about deadly heat. There was just one problem with that number. Nobody had ever tested it on an actual person. It came from theory, from clean math on paper. A very reasonable guess that everyone slowly started repeating as a hard fact. So a lab at Penn State finally did the obvious thing. They took young, healthy adults, the most heat-tolerant people you can find, and put them inside a climate chamber. Then they slowly turned up the heat and the humidity, measuring the precise moment each person's core temperature began its climb that wouldn't stop. And the real number wasn't 35, it was closer to 31, a wet bulb around 88 Fahrenheit. In humid conditions, the average was about 30.5, just under 87 Fahrenheit. Not the frail, not the elderly, fit young people, hitting their wall a full 4 degrees earlier than the limit everyone trusted. 4 degrees of wet bulb doesn't sound like much, but it slides that deadly line back onto days we still call survivable. Afternoons in places the old number marked as safe are, for a real human body already over the edge. So the next time you hear a temperature, notice what's missing from it. The number on the thermometer barely tells you anything on its own. What actually decides whether heat is deadly is whether your sweat can leave. And the truest measure of that is a thermometer in a wet sock, quietly reporting how full the air already is. A bone-dry 45, that's 113 Fahrenheit, can be survivable. A humid 34, barely the low 90s, might not be. And the limit we were certain of, for decades, was off. By exactly the margin that gets people killed. The scariest limits are never the loud ones. They're the quiet lines your body defends without ever asking your permission. And now, well, you know one more of them. If a limit you can't feel until it's already too late is your kind of thing, go watch what happens to your body above 8,000 meters, in the place climbers call the death zone.